Hello guys, welcome to Desmo Head Garage. In this video I'm gonna upgrade my Ducati Multistrada 1260S clutch safe cylinder. In many forums I read a lot of things about it. Some people claimed about the excessive force of operating the clutch. Frankly speaking, I often feel it. So the clutch is hard, but it's a big engine with a lot of torque. But sometimes during long trips with several gear ups and downs, it's a bit uncomfortable. So I'm going to install a Ducabike clutch safe cylinder. I read a lot of aftermarket clutch safe cylinders, mainly for Ducabike, Oberon and other types, and some people says that there's a significant difference comparing to the OEM Brembo. Some says that they didn't feel anything. So I give it a chance. I install the Ducabike and we'll see how it works. The first step is to drain the clutch system. I'm going to empty the whole system, because if I leave it and I disconnect the banjo bolt, some fluid might go onto the painted surface, and I like to avoid it. So draining out the hydraulic system completely makes it much easier to dismantle it and avoid any kind of fluid dripping onto the painted surface, because frankly speaking, this painting is not a high quality, but this is my personal opinion. I run into the problem of the corrosion while the OEM cover was here with a sponge below it, so I like to avoid any kind of uncomfortable situation. First step for the draining is to loosen the cap of the clutch hydraulic fluid container. Speaking, I just leave it loosened. You can use a syringe to suck out the fluid from the container, but I like to check the level dropping. The bleeding through is a number of 8 mm. So first I'm gonna loosen it, then I contact the vacuum pump and apply some vacuum. Then I open the valve. The hydraulic system is empty, almost empty. I close the bleed screw. Clean it up. Clean the screw to get rid of any residual brake fluid. I use racks to hold up some residual brake fluid coming out of the tube after the special screw removed. It needs a 12 mm wrench. So let's loosen it. Two washers and I use a multi-layer aluminum foil to keep this environment dry. I would use a plastic bag or plastic foil, but it can be formed easily and it doesn't need any plastic fastener or rubber bond or whatever. The slave cylinder is held by 3 bolts and it needs a 5mm Allen key to remove it. There's no trace of thread lock, so I don't need to use it. And slave cylinder is removed. Now I'm gonna clean this area. When I replace the clutch save master cylinder, it's worth to replace the O-ring, 2 O-rings in the clutch rod. Okay, so I'm going to remove the old O-rings in one piece. I need some tool for it. If you don't need them in one piece, simply cut them out. Clean the grooves first. For installing the new O-rings, I use some engine oil for lubrication on the shaft, and it makes it easier. Not an easy job by wearing gloves. Now 2 new O-rings are in their position. The engine oil is good for lubrication for the shaft. It's originally hid by the engine oil. So let's reinstall it. Now it's back in this position. If you can see, it's not a circular shape, but it's more the rectangular. It's for the anti-rotation. So when I install the new slave cylinder, I need it to take care of its position. Also, don't forget to install a new seal to the back side of the slave cylinder. So let's install the cylinder itself. As for the thread lock, I changed my mind since it's the safety critical part of the bike. I like to avoid any problem caused by a loosened bolt. The bolts are to be tightened to a torque of 10 Newton meters. have some space against the clutch plate. That's why I need several rounds until the bottom of the clutch safe cylinder hits the engine block. Now let's tighten it to torque. Okay, so the safe cylinder is in its position. Before I connect the brake line, I remove the cap, of course. And then fill up the safe cylinder with brake fluid. I use the .4. In this case it's the same as I did it for the phone brake. It makes the bleeding process easier. But be careful, there's not a big hole in it. The rag again to avoid any infiltration of the brake fluid. Don't forget to use new washers. It's part of the Ducabike kit, but you can buy them separately if you would use any other type of safe cylinder for upgrade, and the washers are not included. Okay, as for the tightening torque, the workshop manual gives different piece of information again, because in some chapters it's told as 24.5 Newton meter, while the others say 23. So I use 23 Newton meter. As a first step, fill up the container with fresh brake fluid, and then start the process. While doing it, keep your eye on the fluid level, because when it runs out, it's not a big drama and you need to restart the whole process. Filling up the system, I use the same vacuum pump based process. So I apply the vacuum, open the bleeding valve, and I close it again, and then there's a refill up in the container. Get rid of any residual air trapped in the system, make the bleeding process at the top bleeding screw as well. watch the membrane as the vacuum sucks it out. I finished the bleeding with the classic pumping method, so pushing the lever I open the bleeding screw, and again and again and again. It's a bit more sensitive to feel if there would be any air trapped in the system. When you finish the bleeding process, fill up the clutch fluid reservoir up to the maximum level. Take care of that it's a bit tilted. So it's in maximum. It's at the maximum level. Still the membrane. And the cap. After finishing the bleeding, let's clean up the bleeding screw from any brake fluid residual. I use this paper towel corner to suck it out from the bleeding screw hole and make it dry. The miracle of capillarity. As for the tightening torque, there are contradictory information in the workshop manual again. Some chapter says it's 10 Newton meter, some says it's 5.5. I do believe the 10 Newton meter is too high for it, so I set it up to 5.5 and I tighten it. And so it's finished. I'm after the first test drive and the overall impression is positive. However, I did not feel the pulling force easier, less. But when I rode the bike, I felt that the characteristics of this Ducabike clutch safe cylinder is more linear than the OEM Brembo one. I mean that the force characteristic felt to be flat, while when I used the OEM one, I felt a peak at the end of the travel, and it made the gear shift quite tiring after a long ride. I know there is a quick shifter, but I don't like using it. I use the quick shifter under special circumstances, for example a hard uphill acceleration to reduce the momentum loss, but it's technical, so it's my business. Anyway, I keep it. I'm satisfied with it.